maybe I should stop jinxing teams from this tournament. I'm already 0-2 in these last 2 days, man, so you won't get any predictions from me. Maybe. Welcome back to the World Cup recap, day 21 of the tournament. Another crazy day of knockout games and almost some crazy upsets happening as well. We'll get into all of that and more as we start off with the first game of the day between England and DR Congo. It's at this point, right, where with England, do you trust them to be any other way than what they are? If you don't know exactly what I mean, this is the most frustrating team I've ever seen, man. And they do this every tournament where they have all these great players, they have all these great talents, and then somehow it takes this Herculean effort to get past such inferior teams. And today was absolutely no different. To DR Congo's credit, they were coming off an absolutely great group stage. They were able to tie against Portugal, showing that they do have the capability of giving some big teams some scares. They took Colombia to only a 1-0 result, and of course, they got that massive win against Uzbekistan that took them to this spot on the knockout stage for the first time ever. England, on the other hand, came kind of dribbling into this knockout stage, as they kind of usually do. First game obviously was impressive, but the last two against Ghana and Panama, not so great. As far as what Thomas Tuchel decided to do today, he went back to a little bit more of a normal lineup, but still some missing pieces in there. Bukayo Saka is still somehow managing his fitness, so his replacement, Noni Madueke, got the start again. Marcus Rashford got in on the left, Bellingham returned to the number 10 role, and of course, Elliot Anderson, Declan Rice, double pivot. The back line as well obviously saw Jed Spence come in at right back in the replace of Reece James. But regardless of who they had out there, man, DR Congo were absolutely out to play from the jump. With just 7 minutes in, Chancellor Mbemba plays a brilliant ball through Brian Sapenga, scoring his first ever international goal. What a time to do it. DR Congo take the lead. England just completely shocked. They just completely lapsed on all grounds there. Everyone was just turning on each other because, again, somehow this team in a World Cup knockout game just didn't expect DR Congo to actually come out the way they did. And you wonder why so many people, including me, are so worried about this England team, man, because these starts that they've been having, these poor first halves, they're going to get bit eventually, man. Whether it's from today's game or the Ghana game, the Croatia game even as well. Like, all their first halves in this tournament have been so poor. And especially after they conceded that goal, they just looked a mess of themselves. Their body language was terrible. They just didn't seem any at all confident, at least compared to DR Congo. They were just throwing themselves out there. And then obviously late in the first half, we had a ton of drama. First, Yohan Wissa got an absolute peach from Aaron Wan-Bissaka. He's right in front of goal, and he just put it to the post, man. That would have been it right there. A 2-0 lead heading into halftime. That would have absolutely changed everything. With the tournament that Wissa's had, which has been absolutely great, he's got to put that away. That would have absolutely put England in even more of a hole in the getting into the second half. And speaking of that, literally the very next play, right on the other end, Harry Kane's through on goal. Impassi makes a challenge. He goes down. Tons of shouts for a penalty. Everyone's going crazy. The benches, all the England players are just surrounding the ref. In the end, they decide to not go to VAR for this one. It is reviewed, and it's not a penalty for England. My thoughts on this? I think it's the right call, especially with the new angles that have been coming out after the game. It showed that Kane pretty much milked this challenge. Yes, Impassi does make contact with him. You can make a case for there being a penalty, but looking back, Harry Kane could have easily done more in that situation, and you can kind of tell by his reaction that he was really pushing for that penalty. He knew exactly what he was doing. And for any England fan that still questions the validity of this, like Germany the other day, this was payback for the Ghana game where they should have gotten a penalty. Well, that's besides the point, because in the end, England have bigger issues to worry about, like, I don't know, being down 1-0 to DR Congo, and you're 45 minutes away from an early World Cup exit, and potentially the most humiliating result in English football history. Obviously, the Iceland game stands on top of that list, and understandably so, but the World Cup just means more. And a loss like that, I don't know, man. They just had to turn it around. It did take some time for Thomas Tuchel to make some of the substitutions, but he obviously started off Anthony Gordon coming on for Marcus Rashford. A change that I thought was a little bit controversial, but we'll get into a little bit more later. And of course, the Arsenal for Arsenal change, Bukayo Saka finally coming into this one as well. They weren't done, obviously, with the Arsenal changes as they came on as well. But in the end, England would obviously turn to their former Tottenham boy. 5 minutes after the Eze sub, Anthony Gordon lobs it up, and Harry Kane heads it down. England back level. The entire nation just sighing of relief. They were back in this one. And not only were they back, but you really started to see in these last couple minutes of the game a complete shift. Instead of DR Congo being the ones throwing themselves and with all the confidence in the world, it just completely shifted. England were out in search of a winner, doing whatever it took, and DR Congo were hanging on for their lives. But in the end, they could only hold on for so long because when you have the greatest goal scorer on the planet on your team, you give the ball to him and you get out of the way. Gordon played it to Kane. He was just on the edge. He makes a move inside, and that shot, my goodness, man. Harry Kane doing Harry Kane things, his 4th goal of the tournament, and one of the most important goals he has ever scored for England at any tournament, man. That was just insane, man. He really turned it on in those last couple of minutes, man. Again, he's one of those players where, like an Erling Haaland and like other strikers, where he may not be at his best, he may not be always present for an entire game, but he just has that switch where doesn't matter what the situation is, he's always focused, he's always engaged. When he gets his moment, he's going to take it. And this is the difference with England teams sort of in the past and the future. You have genuine superstar players that can step up in moments like that. We've seen Jude Bellingham obviously do that in a couple of games, whether it's this tournament or the last tournament. But Harry Kane, he has been the consummate for this team since at least 2018. And man, what an absolutely incredible showing from him. England take the 2-1 lead and they hold them off from there. Again, getting very, very close, man. Very, very close. Again, if it wasn't for the heroics of Harry Kane, I don't know, man. This would have been a very, very awkward and early exit for this team. But it's like, kind of what I said at the beginning. It's like, this is what England do, man. We shouldn't be expecting anything else from this team. No matter how good these players are, no matter what system they play, whatever the case is, this is just what they do. They always go the hard way when it comes to this. They'll have displays like they did in Croatia where it's like, okay, this team's got some talent. This team's got some juice. And then the Ghana game and the Panama game, you're like, oh. And then even this game, you're like, okay, when's this team going to actually wake up? But they always find a way. They just always find a way to get over the top, whether it's late heroics like that or penalty, whatever the case is. They just always find a way. And it's like, it's like, why do you expect England to be any other way than what they are, man? They're the most frustrating team to support. I can't even imagine what it'd be like supporting them again, especially in a game like this where just not good for the first 70-ish minutes. You finally get that goal, and then the spirits of the team just go up from that immediately. But yeah, England, they get it done. Although I will say that their bad first halves are really, really going to cost them, especially in their next opponent in Mexico. We saw what they did to Ecuador. You have a bad start, they're going to make you pay. And England, man, they got to be ready, man. That crowd at the Azteca, they're not to be played with. They are not to be played with. They have to come out with the best performance of their lives, the best performance of this tournament in order to get that win against Mexico. It is going to be an insane task to do, but I'm very much looking forward to that game. That is going to be such a good one, man. Big, big task ahead of them, man. You do not want to underestimate this Mexico team. We're absolutely playing out of their minds at the moment. DR Congo, on the other hand, fair play to you guys, man. Absolutely incredible tournament. What a statement that this team has made from this. That tie against Portugal, and even this game where they led against England for over an hour. Like, that is just so impressive. You guys have a really, really good future. Shout out to Lionel Mpassi in goal. Again, these goalkeepers have been going nuts. I think I've mentioned him before from the Colombia game. He was insane that game. He was diving everywhere. This game was the same thing, man. He was making some crazy, crazy stops, and obviously some people will kind of go back and forth on the penalty thing. I don't think that's obviously relevant anymore. But again, DR Congo, shout out to you guys, man. You making history in this tournament. The furthest, obviously, they've ever gone, and they were that close. They were that close to pulling off the biggest upset of this tournament. That would have been absolutely insane, but England, they always do what they got to do, and they're always going to find a way to get it done. That's just how they are, and I expect nothing less, and you shouldn't expect nothing less from this team going forward. Now on to the second game of the day, easily the wildest game of the day between Belgium and Senegal. A massive opportunity presents itself for both teams coming off of iffy group stages. Belgium obviously coming off a big 5-1 result against New Zealand, a result that they needed after they really underperformed in their first two games against Egypt and Iran. And speaking of the first two games, Senegal actually made history by becoming the first team in World Cup history to make it to the knockout stage despite dropping their first two games. Mind you, those first two games were against France and Norway, so yeah. But obviously they were able to do enough against Iraq to secure themselves the very last third place spot. In fact, I think they were the only third place team to finish with 3 points. These third place teams are actually really good. And Senegal is a part of that. We know what this team is capable of. Obviously, they went to the AFCON this year, did really well in that. And in this tournament, coming off of that big Iraq result, they were heading into this with a lot of confidence. And that confidence immediately paid off. They came in absolutely swinging, man. Almost 15 minutes in, Ismail Assar had an unbelievable chance. He hits the post, and then he misses from point-blank range. I mean, oh my God. How that didn't go in was just absolutely insane. Luckily for him in Senegal, it wouldn't take long for them to finally get their moment. Another great chance from Sarr hits the post, but this time, Habib DR is first on the scene, cleans it up, and Senegal take the early lead. And deservedly so, man. They were absolutely flying in that first half. Belgium just came out extremely flat, man. This was the Belgium team that I was, again, going into this tournament, very worried would eventually come out, especially again with their superstars, the likes of Jeremy Doku, once again not showing up. And obviously it only compounded just 5 minutes in the second half. Ismail Assar gets an absolute dime from Moussa Niakate, and he produces one of the most aesthetically pleasing goals of this tournament. The long ball, the chest touch, the control, absolutely amazing, man. That is just pure football right there. Senegal just flying, man. Up 2-0. Everything's going their way. And Belgium, on the other hand, they were without a doubt on the brink of complete collapse. Nothing emphasized them more when in the second hydration break, Leandro Trossard and Yuri Tielemans were almost coming to blows. They were almost fighting each other. Now, this is nothing new for Belgium, right? We've seen World Cups and tournaments before where there's been, murmurs of locker room tension and things like that. For it to almost spill over on the pitch, that might be a new low, man. I can't even lie. That was insane. But we'll get back to those two in the end. Because first, it was Romelu Lukaku time. Once again, he is brought in to save this Belgian team. He did that in the first game against Egypt, even though he didn't get a credit with the goal. He did it in the third game against New Zealand to secure Belgium top of the group. And he does it again in this one with just 4 minutes to go. He gets behind Senegal, taps one past Dia, and just like that, it's a 1-goal game. At this point, I'm thinking, okay, Belgium, at least they're making this kind of interesting for the end, because otherwise, this game was kind of on the boring side. But I definitely was not saying that 3 minutes later when we go back to our two combat boys, Leandro Trossard picking out Yuri Tielemans, a perfect placement. Tielemans lobbing it right over Diao. And just like that, Belgium, against all the odds, have tied this game. It was absolutely ridiculous, man. And again, Belgium are not new to this stuff. We've seen this happen before. 2018 against Japan, down 2-0, and they somehow find a way back so quickly as well. But in the end, the teams we need another 30 minutes to decide things, although as we would end up seeing, it took a lot more than 30 minutes to really wrap this one up. Because once again, VAR comes into play. As we're all paying attention to Luka Bacchio, who hit the crossbar, was this close to sending Belgium through, on the left side, Yuri Tielemans was taken down. And after minutes and minutes and minutes going by, VAR checks, both sides losing their minds. In the end, Belgium gets the penalty. And again, man, I don't know how much more I gotta speak about these VAR stuff, man. I did not think that VAR was going to have this much of an effect on the tournament. It's literally every game at this point. It's gone from an everyday thing. Today was like an every game thing. Every game had at least one call that just sparked so much drama, so much controversy. And this one, man, you just got to feel for Senegal, man. On the end, as much as I hate to say this, but it's closer to being a penalty than it is not. More times than not, the play like that gets called a penalty, but again, such a harsh and just bad way to decide this game. A friend who watches basketball basically told me this is the equivalent of a game ending on free throws, and I couldn't agree more, man. But obviously not to take away from Belgium's standpoint, Yuri Tielemans did what he had to do, stuck it in the top corner, perfect penalty on his end. Belgium complete the comeback. They become the first team to come back from 2-0 down to win in a World Cup knockout game twice. They've done it twice now. In fact, they're the only team that's actually ever done it. So, man, I don't even know, man. Belgium are just insane. Again, just when you think that this team has nothing left in the tank, they're the frauds we all knew them to be, they just find a way to just get it done. I don't even know, man. And again, this presents a perfect opportunity for them. Their next game, they take on the U.S. Later on, I'll get into a little bit later of why that matchup favors them more. But for Senegal, they might be the most unlucky national team of this year. This year specifically, from the AFCON debacle at the start of the year where Morocco was given the pen, they walked off the field, and all that stuff. And then the same thing here, man. They get a late penalty called against them. They were up 2-0 in the game, and they just couldn't get it done. Now, what I will say is, as much as I do feel bad for Senegal in this situation, I also don't feel kind of bad because they did the thing that you absolutely should not do when it comes to these knockout games. One, completely sit back and let the team have all the control. And two, subbing off some of your best players with plenty of time left in the game just so you could rest them for the next round. I've seen this happen so many times of teams just sitting back thinking even a 2-0 lead is comfortable. No, you got to wind that down to like 10 minutes left, even maybe more than that, to really make yourselves feel comfortable in this. The fact that Senegal really took that hands-off approach and were just like, you know what, we're good enough, it's 2-0, we can see this out. No, you absolutely cannot do that, man. You absolutely can't. And they fell into that today. They took off Ndiaye, they took off DR, they took off Papagay, and it cost them. It absolutely cost them in this one. And yeah, as much as I think this was obviously unlucky, Belgium obviously doing what they did, getting those 2 late goals and the penalty as well, this falls on them. This 100% falls on Senegal, and such a disappointment, especially with the way it ended. They were this close to getting a matchup with the U.S. Again, they could have easily gone as far as a quarterfinal based on what side of the bracket they were in, but in the end, like I said, no one to blame besides themselves. This is on them, and a disappointing World Cup in the end for this team. Again, obviously it would have been a monumental victory beating Belgium in the way that they did it as well. We all know what this team is capable of. They're ranked top 15 for a reason, but again, they just let themselves down. They let the foot off the gas, and Belgium just absolutely made them pay for it. Now on to the final game of the day. We go to the ultimate hosts of this competition, the USA against Bosnia and Herzegovina. The US obviously coming off a great group stage. They topped the group, had some breathtaking displays, especially against Paraguay. Bosnia, on the other hand, they find themselves in complete uncharted territory. Their first ever World Cup knockout, and a massive opportunity against the host nation. It's actually the second host nation that Bosnia are playing in this tournament. That ties them with South Africa, actually, as well. But in the end, this game pretty much played out like I kind of thought it would. Bosnia were sitting back. They weren't really trying to go for it too much in this one. Their attacks from the likes of Dzeko and Demirovic were just completely neutralized, while the US's attack went right to work. With Florian Balogun once again back on his goal-scoring prowess. A brilliant ball in from McKennie. Balogun through. He gets the finish, does the silencer, only for him and the crowd to be silenced by the offside flag. I have to say, that's one of the funniest moments I've seen from the tournament, because not only from him, but also the crowd itself, it took them literally like 1 to 2 minutes to figure out, wait, that goal didn't count. We didn't score. They were still celebrating like they were up 1-0, but yeah, Americans and their soccer, what can I say? But luckily for all of them involved, Balogun would get his chance just before halftime. Just a scramble in the box. Tillman tried to play a ball in. It goes off 2 players. Eventually, it falls to Balogun. He makes no mistake on the finish and no mistake on his judgment. He is onside. The silencer's back. The U.S. take the 1-0 lead into halftime. And that was big. They really needed that goal before half, man. Take it from me, from that Canada-Bosnia game, it would have been a Herculean effort for the U.S. to try to get one if they couldn't get one early in that game. But fortunately for them, again, Florian Balogun, he has been really, really great in this tournament, man. Again, this guy was unintentionally born in the U.S. Like, his story is amazing, man. And whether you are for or against birthright citizenship, I bet plenty of Americans are grateful that Florian Balogun is their star striker. But into the second half, again, Bosnia struggling to really get anything going. The U.S. having full control of this one. And now we go to the most controversial moment of the day. A day that's already had so many controversial decisions and calls, but this one easily tops the lot. And once again, it involves Florian Balogun. With him and Rahimovic trying to go for the ball, they obviously both end up colliding. They both go down. Overall, it just looks like one of those, 50-50 battles, clash of legs, the usual stuff that you see in the game, right? Then you see the replay and you're like, that doesn't look too good. Really, really hard to watch. Although in saying that, I don't think Balogun is at really any fault. Both players are going for the ball, and obviously Balogun is extremely unlucky to where he's trying to go for the ball. Marinovic puts his leg down right where he's trying to step in, and that's where the thing happens. Somehow, this was enough to go to VAR and Balogun got sent off. I know the other day I credited VAR for being mostly right with red card decisions. This one they got wrong. Straight up. They got this one way, way wrong. Again, the challenge itself, when you look at it on the replays and everything, it doesn't look good. But when you watch this in real time, you can see two players battling for the ball. It is unlucky the way that it happened, man. The mechanism itself, it can be grounds for a red card. It usually is grounds for a red card. But in this case, I don't think there's a good call for it, because I think it's one of those things where a challenge like that, the studs in right there, you have to think of the context. You have to think of the situation itself. Balogun was going for the ball. Clearly, both players were battling for it. Both of them were engaging with each other. It's not like Balogun just flew in out of nowhere, recklessly trying to take down his opponent. If that's the case, 100% that is a valid red card. But in this case, both players are engaged. Both players are doing that. Balogun, yes, he gets unfortunate. The mechanism itself, it looks terrible. But when you watch it in real time, and I've seen this argument be made as well for some of these VAR things, especially when it comes to these red cards and stuff, you have to watch these in real time. Watching it in slow-mo replays, yes, of course you see the mechanisms. Yes, of course you see all that stuff. But watching it in real time with the context that it is of both players are in the mix, that changes everything. That, to me, should not be a red card. There was no intent from Balogun there to injure this player. There's no recklessness from him on that play. Both players are putting their boots on the ground, putting their studs in, trying to go for it, right? There's no intent at all to cause the kind of ailment that he did. There's been so many plays that have been documented in this tournament that have been just as dangerous, if not even more dangerous than that one, that weren't called red cards. Lionel Messi against Algeria. I haven't even forgot that one yet. But yeah, like, it's just a ridiculous decision. One that obviously not only affects the U.S. more in this game, but in their next game as well. Before that, obviously, the U.S. had to go out and finish this one with 10 men, which they were able to do flawlessly. Thanks to Malik Tillman scoring the free kick. Vasilo's not really doing himself too well on that one. He easily could have kept that one out, but regardless, the U.S. take it. Obviously, Malik Tillman, I said he was going to be a key part of this team in this tournament, and he absolutely has. That one pushes the U.S. over the top. They get the 2-0 win, and they advance to take on Belgium. Now, again, if the result was the way it was, I'd feel very confident for the U.S. heading into that game. But with the loss of Fuller and Balogun, I don't know, man. And again, it's extremely unfair. I don't know if there's a chance that this gets looked at and this gets overturned and he gets to play in that game. Obviously, that'd be great for the U.S., but it doesn't look like that's how it's going to be, unfortunately. So, yeah, the U.S. now has to take on a major European power without their talismanic goal scorer, who's, again, Balogun's been electric in this World Cup, and it's a real shame that his World Cup could potentially be over with that decision. If I were to guess, they're probably going to turn to Ricardo Pepi for the next game. A solid backup option, but again, with how Balogun's played in this tournament, with how electric he's been and how much of a problem he's been for defenses, that Belgian defense will breathe a little bit easier not having to deal with him. But besides that, the U.S., obviously, they did their thing. They took care of their business. Their defense was able to hold up in this one. They'll obviously have a bit more of a challenge against Belgium. And again, that's one of those games where you got to be in it for the entire game. Belgium has proven time and time again that they can make those late pushes. The U.S. has to be ready for that. And then as for Bosnia, well, they haven't played too convincingly in this tournament. Fair play for them to getting to this stage in the first place. They do have some interesting young players as well. Obviously, Karamel Begovic, he scored that incredible goal against Qatar. He's definitely going to be the centerpiece of this team going forward. And on the other hand, this was obviously Edin Dzeko's last dance with them. 40 years old, unable to get a goal in this World Cup, but at least he got to see his team through to their biggest point they've made so far. So, yeah, Bosnia, well done, but the U.S., they took care of business, and we'll see, man. Again, if it wasn't for Balogun's thing, I would have been much more confident taking the U.S. in that one, but obviously Belgium riding high coming off their win. We'll see how it all unfolds. But that is going to be it for day 21 of the tournament. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe for daily World Cup content. And who said I wasn't going to make a prediction in the end? Obviously, Portugal play Croatia in Toronto. That is going to be absolutely insane. Unfortunately, I will not be able to attend that one because I don't feel like spending my life savings on that. But I'll still obviously be heavily tuned into that. And if I were to guess, Portugal will get the win, and Luka Modric's legendary international career will end today. You heard it. Let's play football.